Welcome back to the Celtics Nation Rise podcast, episode 57, presented by Celtics Talk Weekly. I'm your host, Griffin Aldrich. Alongside me, we have my two co-hosts, David Caires and Daniel Miguel. How are you guys doing? It's been a week since the weekly podcast, and I tell you what, not too much news. Obviously, before we were talking about Summer League and obviously breaking that down, talking about the roster. And we'll get into it soon, but there was one notable ad on the Celtics roster that we didn't mention because he was an addition to the roster so late, and that was Charles Bassey. And we will get into that later, but Summer League, the Celtics are 2-1 right now, probably out of a Summer League playoff spot, which whatever, it's Summer League. But how are you guys feeling? Obviously, we'll get into Summer League in a second, but how's it going, you guys? How are you doing, David and Daniel? How are you guys doing?
So far, so good. Still trying to get over, I guess, the Celtics playoff loss. I mean, it's coming up on a couple months now. Maybe it's just burnout and like not burnout, but just kind of tough to come to terms for me with the idea of the team that I've spent like 200 games watching of the last couple of years is being torn apart piece by piece. I mean, is 100 and whatever it was, 101 games in 23, 24, another um, 97 games, something like that this past season. It's a lot of basketball to watch of one group, and like it was a special group. Um, it just stinks that it all had to come to an end because of the salary cap. I mean, we obviously don't want to be above that second apron for 3 years in a 5 year span. You don't want to have all these restrictions implemented on you, but it's tough. It's been a tough off season, but I am glad that we get a little bit of basketball here, and then we'll obviously get preseason basketball starting up in a two and a half months now from here. So just trying to enjoy this basketball with the youngsters. Remains to be seen if any of the people we see playing this past week will have an impact on the NBA roster come when the season starts. But it's just good to have some Celtics basketball for a little bit to feed us a little bit here in this summer dry period of the NBA offseason.
Totally. What about you, Daniel? How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Like David said, trying to get over that um, Celtics inevitable loss, and not only the loss, but also the loss of our teammates, of the some members of the team. Still hurts to this day. Which honestly, I'm starting to get like a little more like acclimatized to the fact that we're gonna have people like George Niang and Garza and like Tillman starting to get minutes, and just bunch of other guys that we haven't seen get much play time or play at all for the Celtics before this season. So it's something to get used to. But yeah, I'm starting to like this summer league team. Two names, I think three names that I'm excited about. Obviously we talked a little bit about Bassey. I think Kenny Lofton Jr. as well is another name that's I think a little bit surprising. Not surprising, but I'm happy to see him like play good for us. And obviously Jordan Walsh, shining, finally getting the chance he deserves. Hopefully, these minutes transition into the regular season because I want to see him play and develop. Same with Baylor Sherman. Um, but yeah, about all that, doing pretty good.
Yeah, well, I wanted to mention another name that a lot of Celtics fans aren't going to talk about, but we also did lose another member of the championship team, that being Drew Peterson. Drew Peterson just a couple days ago signed a two-way contract with the Charlotte Hornets, and that's another guy I did a video on, and it's another guy that the Boston Celtics just didn't exercise. They didn't want him. I mean, you look at the Celtics summer league team, and they're very talented. So bringing Drew Peterson back, it's like, all right, he could be a guy who could maybe impact the game. However, the Celtics had other plans, and they didn't sign Drew Peterson, and Drew Peterson walked. But Do you guys have any thoughts on Drew Peterson signing with the Hornets? Obviously, I want to get your guys' takes on that too, just being some recent news.
Yeah, so I wish Drew Peterson the best. I really didn't think much of him up until last year. And I mean, he didn't get a ton of opportunities last season, but I really love what he gave the Celtics. And I was honestly pinning him to be the Sam Hauser replacement since like March of last year. I
Totally.
thought Hauser was going to be on his way out. It seems like Hauser is going to be sticking around at least for the time being. I just liked what I saw from Drew Peterson. I thought he was decent with shooting. I thought he had a little bit better playmaking than Hauser, and he was on a much cheaper contract than the 10-ish million that Hauser's making over the next 3-4 years. So I am sad to see him go, honestly, and I think that this is I don't want to say a big loss because like he didn't obviously do much for us in his Celtics tenure, but it's a big loss for me in the terms of flexibility, where now it's almost like we're forced to keep Hauser and his 10 million price tag on the team, unless we think that we can move Hauser and Shireman can step right into that Sam Hauser role on his own. I think if we traded Hauser and we elevated Peterson and Shireman to make up the production of what Hauser did, that's completely doable, asking them to do what Hauser did on his own. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be sad to see him go. He is a champion. He was in the organization when we won it in 2024. And best of luck to him in Charlotte. Hopefully, he'll get a better opportunity there and some more minutes. But yeah, that kind of caught me by surprise a little bit. And it just takes away a little bit more of our flexibility. But I think the best guy or the guy that is most happy about that news has to be Baylor Shireman, because that's just another wing out of his way to potentially get minutes in the rotation next year.
Totally. What about you, Daniel? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I like that last bit a lot. I think one of the only names in the list of people that are going to be happy about this is Sharman, which honestly, thinking about that, I never thought about it that way. Now I'm a little bit more like, not sad, but like more accustomed to the fact that Peterson is gone, because now I hopefully get to see more of Billy Sharman, which is something that I've wanted since we first drafted him, and since I saw him in last year's summer league. In terms of Drew Peterson, I didn't pay much attention to the main Celtics last season or the G League team, but from the games I watched or from what I could tell and the stats I saw, it was like JD Davidson and Drew Peterson with that dynamic duo on that G League team from last season. It seemed like they were the two guys that were not really doing all the work, but they were the ones like the plays would run through both of them, and they were just like the stars of that G League team. So I'm pretty sure JD Davidson is also another name on the list of people who are shocked or like a little bit sad about that news, because I'm guessing they were like pretty close friends and obviously close teammates. But in terms of like the name itself, Drew Peterson, I wasn't really like paying much attention to him. Just when he got those like 5 minutes a game, 10 minutes a game for the Celtics, in those like scrub away games, or just like those like 5 minutes left in the game and just put him in just for fun, just whatever. So yeah, that's when I would usually pay attention to him. Other than that, unfortunately, I wasn't much of uh a fan
Peterson.
of him. I'm not a hater, but like I was just like I wasn't watching him either and paying attention to his stats. But he seems like a really good guy, and he was a good player when I did watch him. I think it's funny that he ends up going to the Hornets, and the coach who wants him there is the same coach that was on the Celtics. So I think there's that connection where like the coach saw Peterson and coached Peterson and thought this guy's a nice guy and he wants to add him to the rotation. I think it's a steal, honestly, for the Hornets. And I think it's also good, like David said, for Peterson, because he gets to have more minutes and more of a chance to kind of like prove himself. So I'm not mad about that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna later on in the program, I'll try to find a picture of Peterson. Obviously, it might have been his first G League game with the Maine Celtics, as he didn't have a um, name on the back of his jersey. So it might have been easily one of his first games, if not his first game with the Maine Celtics. So I've known Peterson for a while, obviously being able to talk to him as well, and he's just a great guy. And ultimately, I agree with what you said, David, is he's a guy who we all thought was going to replace Sam Hauser. And we look back at the notable games he had against the Heat, the Cavs, obviously. And ultimately, I'm going to say this again, it's an NBA champion that we're losing right here. And I feel like that's the thing that hurts more. It's just you keep seeing the championship team get lower and lower and lower. So that's the rough part about it. And you guys talked about summer league, and Daniel in particular talked about some guys that he liked in summer league. And I just want to brush it off and start by this. I want to throw off a question to you guys because we've been talking about it a lot on CTW, and this will start our little summer league talk. But my first question for you guys is, obviously this is a question that Seamus has been asking. Do we see Jordan Walsh and JD Davison on the Boston Celtics roster to start the season? And we talked about this. Well, it will be upcoming. You guys will see this in a day or two. We got Sam, one of our fan series guests, to answer that question. But we'll start off with David and go to Daniel. What are your guys' thoughts? Do you guys see Jordan Walsh and JD Davison being players on the Celtics roster come opening night? Because you have to think about it. JD Davison, non-guaranteed contract, and we'll get more into it on roster cuts or whatever. And obviously, Jordan Walsh not playing to his best of his capability in summer league. And one thing I do have to say, obviously, the ejection. Jordan Walsh got ejected earlier in the game. He played 10 minutes, had 13 points, and then boom, he gets ejected because he got into it with one of the players. And it was actually funny after Joe Mazzulla saying that he loved it. He texted him saying he loved it. And then Jordan Walsh in the interview saying Brad wasn't happy about it, but Joe Mazzulla texted me saying he loved it. And we obviously, Jordan Walsh is a quieter guy, so I wouldn't see that out of him, but he hasn't been doing his fullest capability. And I like a quote that Seamus said too, is the fact that players that are NBA ready will stick out like sore thumbs in the summer league. They will be averaging like 30 points. That you could clearly see that they're NBA ready. However, Jordan Walsh has not played to that certain extent. He has been kind of more on the G League side. So, David, again, we'll start off with you. Do JD Davison and Jordan Walsh make the opening night roster?
I feel like Jordan Walsh is almost a lock. I do agree with what you just said at the end, Griffin, where he hasn't really been playing up to par in summer league, and it is just kind of tough to see what Jordan Walsh can become. I personally think that he has a great ceiling. He's a little bit reckless with the ball, but that'll come with time. I mean, he's still only a 22-year-old kid, and I like his explosiveness. I don't hate his shooting from the perimeter, but we just don't know what we're going to get with Jordan Walsh because he has barely played in his first two seasons at the big league NBA level. I will say I think that Jordan Walsh is one of the 15 players suiting up for the Celtics on opening night in October. It remains to be seen if he'll be able to get any minutes because he's a winger, and like him and Shireman are both wings, but they're two different wings. Where Shireman is a little bit more of a standard wing, he's got some great playmaking, but is more focused on perimeter shooting than driving. Jordan Walsh is like a gritty wing where it's all about driving for him, grabbing rebounds, and playing defense and knocking like a 3-and-D wing, basically, is what I think of Jordan Walsh as. So I think he'll make the roster. I think more so the question is, will he be able to get minutes over a guy like Baylor Shireman? I don't think that's the case right now, especially with the way Shireman played at the end of last regular season and the way Shireman is playing so far in Summer League. The JD Davison one is very interesting, and right now it would be very tough for me to see a world where JD Davison is either on the roster or he's even getting significant playing time, because even with the trade of Drew Holiday, he's still buried behind Anthony Simons, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard. So if we make a move between now and opening night to move off of Anthony Simons and his near $25-30 million salary to get a wing or a big man, yeah, that frees up minutes for the G League Player of the Year, JD Davison. But right now, there's a lot of question marks with that too. So for me, to give a long-winded answer to your question, I would say JD Davison, I don't think is going to be on the opening day roster. And I think Jordan Walsh will be, as he was last year. But it wouldn't surprise me if he either gets buried in the rotation very early in the season, or maybe he spends a lot more time down in Maine just to work on his development because you know it's not a great sign. I mean, it's again different, very tough circumstances with how stacked the Celtics are. For obviously, it makes a little bit of sense with how stacked the Celtics are for Jordan Walsh to be playing in the Summer League again, but normally 30-year players don't play in the Summer League, so I'd say Jordan Walsh, yes. Celtics roster opening night. JD Davison, probably not unless they move off of Anthony Simons.
Well, I just want to add on a question to that too. Um, Seamus mentioned this. Obviously, we were all talking about this on post game show that the last game against obviously the Heat, which we lost in, that was a big prove it game for Jordan Walsh and for him to even make it out of Summer League. Do you think his play in Summer League affects the potential of him having a roster spot, or do you think it's kind of they just really want to roll with him still because he still has a good opportunity to be something?
I think it's the latter because if my memory serves me correctly, Jordan Walsh was pretty terrible in Summer League last year. I don't 100% remember, but he was on the opening day roster, I believe, after having a terrible summer last season too. So I think the Celtics are generally one of the more patient franchises in sports. I mean, you know, we basically have been building towards that whole title in 2024 for 10 years, where it seems like every other team in the NBA is just like so impulsive. And if they don't see results in like 3 years, they'll just make changes. So, and also, I don't think they're going to give up on a first round pick. Excuse me, that's only 22 years old. So, no, I don't, unless he really like craps the bed in these final 1 or 2 games or whatever it is. I still think they're going to stick with Jordan Walsh, and like I still there is something there. Like he is still careless with the ball and he plays a little bit too recklessly, but there's something to be said about the defense and the way that he can explode, because that's something that the Celtics are going to need is explosiveness, because we could talk all day about Missoula Ball shooting the threes. I love that strategy. I know everyone doesn't like that strategy, especially with how it kind of bit us in the butt in this most recent playoff run. But if the three ball isn't going, you need people who can drive, and you don't. The only person that can really drive, in my opinion, um, that I 100% trust is Jaylen Brown on this roster.
Yeah.
Like Derek White can do it every so often, but Jordan Walsh, if he can get minutes, is a guy that I think can be explosive. And we don't know if we'll ever get that with Jason Tatum again. I hate to say it, but when you're coming off an Achilles injury, you saw with Durant, he got more efficient from the field, but he just doesn't drive to the hole as much. So I think there's something to be said about having a player who can provide a spark of energy, kind of like what O'Shea Brissett gave to us a couple seasons
Yeah.
ago.
I
So
I, I agree with that take. I like the O'Shea Brissett talk for sure with that. Daniel, what are your thoughts on obviously with JD Davison and Jordan Walsh? Oh, you're muted, by the way.
Yeah. I want to believe that there's only one reason why JD has not played yet this summer league.
Uh,
Um,
the
has
only
he?
reason, yeah, he is ineligible to play this offseason. So,
Oh, because of how long he's been on the team already. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. I was gonna start a whole like rant about like some.
it's
Okay, my fault.
no, it's all good because we had Seamus and I both thought he could still do it. But yeah, he's been in the league too long, so he's ineligible
Okay.
for summer league now.
Because I was gonna say that like the only reason why he's not playing is because he's going to be like he's already confirmed to be on the roster for next season. But if that's the case, then I guess my opinion on JD is gonna change a little bit, but still not much. I think it's gonna be like in that range from 12 to 15 on the players on the roster opening night. I think both him and Walsh are gonna be those like 10 to 15 spots um by opening night. I think JD deserves to be there just because of one, like we already mentioned, how long he's been on the team. Two, he keeps proving that he's ready. Won the player of the season last year in the G League. And he's also stats wise, he's been proving that he can be part of that roster. Like David said, he is behind a lot of notable guards who might get some minutes over him, might get a lot of minutes over him. But I think if the question is, or if the question was, is he gonna get a lot of minutes next season? That's a different answer. But I think for the question, is he going to be on the roster next season? I think that's a yes. I think he's at least going to be on the bench just because of his loyalty to the team, how long he's been there, and what he's done so far for the G League. I think the only reason or the only way I could see him not being part of this team is if he might want to leave because of how um he might want more minutes somewhere else, or he's just concerned about like his minutes or whether he's going to be a part of the team when Tatum comes back, or like I think minutes wise, I think that might be the only reason why he leaves, because he might be like a little mad or something like that, or like a little bit concerned about the minutes he's going to get with the roster we have. But other than that, I think I see him being part of the team uh next season. I think he might get some minutes off the bench. Might be like a 10th man, like I said, or like 11th man off the bench, which isn't much, but it's not also off the roster either. Same with Walsh. I think Walsh. I don't know. I think I'm gonna say the same thing about David. Same thing David said, and agree with him that Walsh has not been the most performative. Also, the same thing Griffin said, has not been the most performative Celtics either this year or last year. Um, he does have a lot of things to work on, but I think it's going to be the same situation where we're going to see him bounce from the G League to the Celtics, from the Celtics to the G League. Same thing that's been happening for the past season or two. And he's going to develop as much as he needs to before he's ready. But I think, especially Missoula, I think Missoula after the text, after the ejection, I think Missoula likes him a little bit more now, and might be a little more susceptible to like giving him some more minutes next season. I think the ejection part was wrong, but he was fighting for the right like cause. I think once I saw that like, or once I read like the reason why he went up on that guy and like pushed him, I think I was like, oh, okay, then it was a valid like crush out. I would say like it was a valid reason to go there and like shove him and like I guess get ejected, but it was worth it. And Mazzulla certainly seems to think so, that it was a good decision. So hopefully that boosts his chances of making it on the roster by starting night. But I do think that both of them are going to be there.
Well, I have to say this. I think this. I wish JD Davison was in a situation like Peyton Pritchard where there's something there, but he's not getting enough time. And
Yeah,
that's what Pritchard was. There was something there, but he just didn't get enough time. And then when
yeah,
they, trusted him, he had that time and developed. I look at JD Davison with this. I look at this. This is my big thing on JD Davison. He's a player who his rookie year did not get a lot of time in the NBA. David, if you don't mind looking up how many games he played his rookie season, because I look back on Baylor Shireman, I look back on Jordan Walsh, I feel like they really outplayed JD Davison. He was kind of a guy who I believe was 19 or 20 when he got drafted, and they kind of stuffed him. How old? How many?
12 games.
He played 12 games his rookie season. So
12 games his rookie season, 8 games the championship season, and then 16 last year.
So
wow.
this is just all right. This proves my point 10 times more. This is a guy who the Celtics have not given even a little bit of chance with. And do you guys agree with that now?
Yeah,
Because
I I agree, but yeah, it just goes back to the point where it's a tough situation for him because we already had so many incredible guards on the team. But no, I 100% agree.
yeah.
totally, because
I think it's gonna be the same case as Pritchard, where like you saw him 2 seasons ago, like wanting to leave and like almost ending up leaving the Celtics because of that same problem, like the minutes he was getting, or the lack of minutes he was getting, and just like lack of development on the Celtics itself. I think it's gonna be the same case with JD, and I think for once, unfortunately, I think this time JD might actually leave if
I
that continues to happen. Even
totally.
though even though we ended up signing Pritchard and he didn't leave, I think it's going to be a different situation with JD.
Well, he has a non-guaranteed deal too, so he could the Celtics could waive him. And I look at this,
Yeah,
I feel like if he is the player that leaves, this is going to be the biggest regret that the Celtics have. And
I
and
agree.
this could be totally wrong. Like JD Davison, they're like Brad Smart. He might see something where, from my analyst perspective too, with the main Celtics, he's a guy who's very ball dominant and needs to have the ball in his hands. He's a guy who could explode to the basket, but also needs to have the ball in his hands and shoot, and he controls the pace of the game. However, the Celtics, as David, you said, have Anthony Simons ahead of him, have Derek White ahead of him, have Peyton
Pritchard.
Pritchard ahead of
Yeah.
him. Obviously, they have three other guys that are ahead of him in that lineup. So it's like, all right, this is going to be a retooling year, but how do you kind of slot him in? And that's the question. So it's like, if there has to come, and we'll talk about this soon because there's a name that we're going to throw out there, but if it has to come down to this, is this the odd man out or is it Jordan Walsh? Because Jordan Walsh, too, I believe, has got a lot more games than JD Davison. I'm pretty sure he has. And you look at that. Yeah, David's on it. I know David's on it. But you look at that, and I will say they've trusted Jordan Walsh a lot. And I had something against Jordan Walsh. How many games did?
All right, so 9 games his rookie season, but this past season 52.
Okay, so
Wow.
52 games. All right, the
He's
nine,
played
That's
61 games
crazy.
across 2 seasons.
and
JD
you
Davison 36 across 3.
52 games.
Oh, that's
So,
such a discrepancy. That's crazy.
and you look at that, things that made me so upset about Jordan Walsh last year is a couple nights earlier in the season is they put him in way too early and we lost games because of that. And if obviously he's not NBA ready yet, but the thing that frustrates me is last year he should have been in the same shoes as JD Davison. He should have been a guy who was with the main Celtics and should have never, like, he should have stayed with them majority of the season. Are you guys
I
agree with
agree.
that? I feel
And
like he's ready.
I think the situation should have been reversed. I think JD on paper is more NBA ready than Walsh. So I don't know what Missoula's thinking. I don't know what Brad is thinking with giving Walsh the minutes JD supposedly deserves, in my opinion. So I think those 52 games should have been played by JD Davidson last season and not Jordan Walsh. Not to say that Walsh is a bad player, but like Griffin said, he's not NBA ready. He still needs he still has a lot to work on compared to JD, who already has all that. Already is like, I wouldn't say NBA ready, but at least bench ready or NBA bench ready. Where in those games where Walsh was going in and just like messing up the rhythm of the game, or just like a couple of turnovers that weren't supposed to happen or plays that weren't supposed to happen, you wouldn't see some of those mistakes happen with JD on the floor instead of Walsh.
Oh, I think all right. We could hear you now, Daniel. I'm pretty sure, but you cut off on the end. If you wanted to re-say that what you said on the end of that.
Yeah, I think something's going on Wi-Fi. I was just saying that I think he was saying that JD deserved Walsh's minutes last season.
All right,
It's like
Daniel.
super muffled.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'm gonna pull up a graphic really quick. If you don't mind, Xing it out and joining. Wait, no, I feel all right. You're good. Stay in. I feel like it'll go by. But what were you
Is it
saying?
better now?
Oh, yeah, I hear you now. I can hear you now.
Perfect.
We are all
Okay.
good. We are all good. But what were you
There we
saying,
go.
David?
I think with Jordan Walsh, yeah, I think it couldn't have hurt if he spent another year last year in the G League because I mean he played 52 games with us last season, but um, it was only an average of 8 minutes a game. A lot of like inactive DNP coaches' decisions were given to him. I would have rather him just gotten another season down in Maine, gotten a lot of playing time, and then yeah, just use this as a growing pain season. But like, I just think maybe last season potentially was a lost season for him, just where like he wasn't. He played a little bit in Maine last season, if I remember, but barely like
Not
any little.
not a whole lot though.
Right.
I feel like maybe
I think he
5
volunteered to go
games.
down there.
Yeah, he volunteered for one game because the Celtics didn't play for a couple of days, so he volunteered himself to go down there. But then he did join them, I believe, for their playoff run, which was only a couple games. So I'm gonna say 5 games in the G League last year.
So yeah, I think It'll be interesting to see what his workload is this year. That's just what I'm most interested to see is how many minutes is Missoula going to give him? Is he going to be able to crack the rotation? And then just is there a spot for JD Davison like we were just talking about? It's interesting because like with all the turnover the Celtics have had this summer, the one position they're still in a pretty good spot in is guard with acquiring Simons along with keeping Pritchard and White. So I think it would be interesting if Pritchard is elevated to the starting role, and then JD Davison, if we free up Simons, if JD Davison is a six man, maybe we could see something with that. But yeah, I don't see a world where it's tough, but I don't see a world where JD Davison is a major contributor next year. I hope I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But I do see more of a world where Jordan Walsh could make some noise with the team next year.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And I'm gonna say this too is I look at this. I mean, obviously you already mentioned it. JD Davison hasn't had a lot of time with the Celtics. And this is a guy, again, I'm gonna say it, is a guy who I feel like will walk from the Celtics, and the Celtics, when he gets trusted with the team, are gonna be like, oh, should have took the chance with him. But ultimately there's a lot of tough decisions to make because the summer league Celtics have some good talent. Daniel, you already mentioned Kenny Lofton, and I haven't been impressed with him throughout the summer. I feel like he has obviously been iffy. He's a guy who I feel like is going to get a lot of time in Maine, and he's a guy who I feel like, and I've been saying this every single program I've been on, whether it be post-game show, recaps. There's a lot of guys on the Maine Celtics Summer League team that I can see, going to the Maine Celtics and then getting a two-way contract as Ron Harper Jr. did last year. And one of those guys being Kenny Lofton. I totally see him spending some time with the Maine Celtics getting a two-way contract. I could totally see Kendall Brown. And Kendall Brown is a name I want to keep in mind because he could be a guy that the Celtics may look at too. He hasn't been overly impressive, but he's another guy who I could see getting a two-way contract somewhere. Same with Isaiah Wong. Hasn't shown it for the Celtics this season, but he's a guy I could see develop for the Maine Celtics and get a two-way contract because he's an NBA ready guy too, I feel like, but he hasn't been showing it a lot. Obviously, Isaiah Wong, Kendall Brown, Kenny Lofton Jr., and then the guy that we got to talk about the most and Jalen Bridges. He's another guy who had a great game for the Boston Celtics, and he's another guy who could get a two-way contract, I feel like. But the big guy we got to talk about, and I'm going to pull this up right now, is Charles Bassey. And this was it wasn't last game, it was the game before. But Charles Bassey had 22 points and had 13 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 blocks. And he was just impressive, as you see this tweet from Justin Turpin. Charles Bassey, the Boston Celtics are in need for a center, and they might have found their center. And I wanted to ask the question for you guys, obviously, is do you guys see Charles Bassey making a roster spot for the Celtics? And if so, who do you cut? Because the Celtics right now, all 15 roster spots are taken up. So who's the guy you move to obtain Charles Bassey? Because as I said, and you guys all know, the Celtics center rotation is really weak right now. Maybe Xavier Tillman leaving it, might be Keita, might be Luka Garza. It's a toss-up between the three. But what are your guys' thoughts on Charles Bassey? And you guys might say, hey, I don't want Charles Bassey, but if the Celtics obtain him and add him to a roster spot, who are you cutting for him? But David, we'll start off with you.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I've been loosely following Summer League. I haven't been like actively watching. It's been more so background noise for me. I've seen the highlights here and there, but obviously the one name I've seen across all my feeds is Charles Bassey. Even in our group chats, I've seen everyone saying roster Charles Bassey now. Obviously, that stat line you just threw up there is something eyebrow to cause some eyebrows to raise. I'm all for taking a flyer on him. I don't see why not. I mean, if we were to cut anyone for him, I mean, I would personally say an Xavier Tillman because it's honestly just like, what is he still doing here at this moment? Which is honestly disappointing because, like, and I mean, no disrespect to Xavier Tillman with that, but like, I had really high hopes for his future with Boston, where when we first acquired him, I thought that this was a great fit, kind of like Al Horford 2.0. You know, there were memes on Twitter that like you couldn't tell Al Horford apart from Xavier Tillman with like how their builds looked and like how they just, you know, how they were structured. And then obviously we'll never forget the minutes Xavier Tillman gave the Celtics in Game 3 of the Finals, hitting that corner three and blocking either Luka Doncic or Kyrie in the paint. But it just like it never. Missoula never went to him last year. I don't really understand that. And anytime Tillman got into a game, he looked just frazzled. He looked nervous. He like couldn't corral the ball. He was bricking threes. So I just think it'd be for the betterment of both sides if they went in different directions because it just seems like the Xavier Tillman experience is should be over here in Boston. Maybe they probably won't go that route because they want, especially with how weak our big man rotation is, they want NBA veterans as part of that team just to, you know, provide some depth and some experience because it is pretty risky going with a rather inexperienced big man rotation if you get Tillman out of the rotation of Akeda, Luka Garza, Amari Williams, and potentially Charles Bassey. But I think if they were to promote Charles Bassey to the roster, the easiest option is to go with one of your second round picks, a Shulga or a Amari Williams off the roster.
So you're saying like cut them off of the 2A and then obviously go with that because I think they're 2A players if I'm not mistaken. It's Max Shulga, Amari Williams, and Miles Norris, the 2A players.
Okay, so forgive me. So do we have to cut someone? Just so I understand, we have to cut someone from the 15-man
I
roster,
well, you could
not a
totally
two-way.
sign Bassey to a 2A. I mean that's what Seamus was talking about. He was like maybe cutting a Miles Norris and going with Bassey.
Yeah, so I guess that would probably be the route I go. Maybe cut one of the two ways. And Amari Williams, I'm sorry, is he on the two-way?
Yes, I believe so.
So I would maybe cut an Amari Williams or a Max Shulga.
I would say Shulga.
It's kind of tough though. This is a tough one, and like I got to do more of my homework on like roster construction. But it is kind of ruthless to cut someone after distracting them and only giving them a summer league to showcase their talents. But I'm I'm all for this year for the Celtics just trying anything out with the big man rotation and seeing what sticks. Like just throw all the gum you can at the wall and see what sticks. But I don't know who I would replace. Like I would just maybe go with the two-way, as brutal as that sounds. Maybe find a taker for Tillman or just cut Tillman outright. But that's that is a tough one.
It is.
I would just go with the two-way, I guess is my final answer.
Well, and I'm gonna add on to this. I mean, Charles Bassey in his first game with the Celtic Summer League team in 18 minutes had 14 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks, and shot 87.5% from the field goal. And then obviously we fast forward to Sunday against the New York Knicks in 22 minutes, had 22 points, 13 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 3 blocks, and shot 66.7% from the field goal. Then we fast forward the night after to Monday. Not as much of a productive night for Bassey. In 23 minutes, had 10 points, 9 rebounds, 1 rebound shy of a double-double, 1 block, and shot 57.1%. But you could obviously see he is an NBA-ready guy and might be the best option at the center position for the Celtics. But Daniel, what are your thoughts? Do you think you take the risk on Bassey, or what do you do alongside with Bassey?
I've played a lot of 2K in the past like few years, and I've been a Bassey fan for as long as I could remember since I started playing because it was during the 2020. No, he wasn't there 2020. I think it was 2023. I think it was either 2K23 or 24, where he's on the Spurs roster, and I started my career player, and I paired my player up with Wemby, and he was just like one of those guys on the bench that would just like come in the game, get like a cool like 10 points, 6 rebounds like off the bench, and like that's how I knew about Charles Bassey like off of 2K, which is funny to say, but I think it's very interesting seeing him like on the Celtics, and I think he does deserve a roster spot. I think we've needed someone to just come in and just rebound in the game. We've missed having rebounds for so long, and it's kind of frustrating because now that we don't have Luke Cornett, who I think was our best like rebounding guard, sorry, rebounding center. I don't think Porzingis was. I wouldn't say Porzingis was a rebounding center. I wouldn't call him that. He was good defensively, but in terms of rebounding, we've been lacking for so long, and I think we finally found a guy who can just like come in the game, get a cool like double double, 10 and 10, and just like leave the game knowing that you've impacted rebounding the game. And from those stats you've shown, obviously he cares a lot about playing, and he has been good at defending and rebounding. So I think since we need that on the team, I think we take him over Xavier Tillman, like David said, or another name that was brought up, Miles Norris, I guess. But yeah, I think Bassey does deserve a spot on the team. I do think that. And just to go back on the previous topic that was mentioned, I just wanted to say something, but I didn't want to interrupt. Kenny Lofton Jr. I've been a fan of him just because he was on the Grizzlies and he wasn't given much of a chance. So then he went like to, I think Asia is where he was last season, somewhere in Asia playing. I think he's another one who deserves some minutes. Just maybe even if it's in the G League. I think it will be good to see him playing the Man Celtics and kind of develop because this was his stats last game. And by the way, his stats for the past 3 games, by the way, have not been too bad.
They
Um,
haven't. Well, can I say, Daniel? They haven't been
yeah, go ahead.
terrible, but when he's out there, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
It's more so on paper it looks well, but like
that's fair.
how it affected the game, it was like, eh. But
That's fair.
I'm not saying on Kenny Lofton. I think he's a guy who he needs to get his feet warmed up back in United States basketball, and
Yeah,
I could totally see him, like you said, playing with the main Celtics, and then potentially like after the main Celtics, finding a two-way contract with another team. But I don't know if the Celtics will go with that risk. And I know you're big on Kenny Lofton. You obviously breaking that news on here, but give us the stats. I want to hear it.
yeah. I think before I say this, by the way, I think David is the one that mentioned JB is the only like player we have right now that drives to the basket and looks to score like in the basket or in the paint. I think Kenny Lofton is another guy with a lot of development. I think about a year, maybe two in the G League, developing and being back in the US. I think he's another guy who's really good at like just like bodying his way into the paint and just like scoring or at least trying to score. Last game he had 12, 4 and 3 with a steal, 5 for 7 from the field, and 50% from the three. The game before that against the Knicks, again not a bad game, but I can see where you're going with this. Griffin, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 50% from the field. All those points coming in the paint, by the way. And in the first game, which was I think his best game so far, he had 11 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. His shooting was bad, but he did make 9 free throws, and so to kind of stray away from Shea and all those like free throw bias, I think he gets most of his free throws because he's trying to score in the paint. He's driving in the paint, getting that contact with other players, and I think with some development, he could be a good like driving to the basket kind of player. Like I wouldn't say a slasher, but like I would say he's very good at driving to the basket and just like scoring from there. So yeah, I hope he gets a chance in the G League next year. You're right, Griffin. I don't know if the Celtics would do that. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. But he's just another name besides Charles Bassey that I just like. But yeah, Charles Bassey is a very good guy, and I think the Celtics would regret not taking a chance on him next season.
Well, I'm gonna agree with you. I wouldn't like we talk about the Celtics being deep because it's like who do we cut? Who do we cut for this? But they're not deep, but it's the fact that these are solid players that on other teams you'd be like, hey, I would like to obtain too. Like for
Yeah,
example, Max Shulga, it's like, are you really gonna let him go? Like you just drafted him, and it's like you look at it, obviously he has been a traffic cone pretty much playing for the Celtics summer league. I mean, it's obvious that he's struggling out there. It's like I would prefer, a Kenny Lofton as a 2-way other than Shulga, and it's like Amari. Maybe I could like Kendall Brown more than him, but I am a big fan of Amari still. I think there's something there with Amari Williams. But to respond to that, I feel like Kenny Lofton, I don't see it being a scenario with him being like, all right, we're going to risk a 2-way. I feel like if he dominated the first ones and was having more of a Charles Bassey summer league performance, they're going to be like, all right, we can't miss out on him. However, I think this is going to be a guy who ends up going to the Maine Celtics, and I could see him getting warmed up with the Maine Celtics again and then getting a 2-way contract somewhere. Totally. I see the same thing. Like, that happened again with Ron Harper Jr. last year. He was a guy who didn't make the Celtics roster, and that's a guy that everyone was like, oh, Ron Harper Jr., he's good. And now he's a 2-way player for the Pistons. So I could totally see that being with Kenny Lofton. And I tell you what, Daniel and David, we're going to have to get an interview with Kenny Lofton when he comes to Maine, obviously. We totally will have to get that interview. But then also looking at it, I'm going to say I was big on Kendall Brown. I think he's a guy who makes a good 2-way player as well. I like him for a player. But then Charles Bassey on that topic, obviously. If I'm the Celtics, I'm moving off of Sam Hauser because I feel like that you will get right under the luxury tax, which you guys right now, the Celtics are still, they got under the second apron, but now they're just above the second apron. If you move off of Sam Hauser, do a trade, ship him off somewhere, get a pick for him or something like that, offload his salary and obtain, obviously, then you sign Charles Bassey to that 2-way. Not 2-way main roster spot, but then you're looking at 4 bigs. So it's like, do we cut Tillman too? It's like, do we ship off Tillman and Hauser for salary, and then boom, you add Charles Bassey, and then you have an open roster spot because you guys know the Celtics love to keep an open roster spot. So I wouldn't mind doing that because I feel like Baylor Shireman then would fill the shoes for Sam Hauser. Obviously, that's a hot topic. You guys obviously know that one. But other than that, I look at this, and there is no way the Celtics should even come out of Summer League without Charles Bassey on a roster spot. There is no way they should. I don't even think by training camp he should be on the Celtics roster. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I feel like this is a guy that you cannot lose this talent. He's a guy who obviously could, and I saw a comment, so shout out to whoever commented this, he's a guy who was a good backup for Wemby when Wemby was out. So this is a guy who could honestly be your starting center going into it. And the stats that he's proving right now, he totally could be. But obviously we brushed up on that a little bit. And so is that all you guys have for Summer League though? Any other hot topics that you guys want to talk about? Or honestly, yeah. No, you're all set, David. What about you, Daniel?
Well, it's not about the Celtics, but that Johnny Furphy dunk was something crazy. But yeah, other than that, nothing else. I feel like this summer league there's not been a player that like is standing out like throughout like the whole league.
Cooper Flag.
Okay, yeah, I guess Coop after that bad first game, picking it up in the second game and just like, but he's played 2 games so far, so like I don't know, like there hasn't been like.
No, they shut him down though.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying they shut him down, but like. Yeah, he's only played 2 games, and they shut him down after that. But like I'm saying, like so far, no one's like stood out and been like every game consistently like points, rebounds, assists, stats. I guess. So yeah, not much news throughout like the rest of the summer league.
Yeah. What about you? What about you, David?
Celtics Nation rise, more like Cooper Flag Nation rise.
No, I'm sorry. Look, I've been trying. You. All right. Listen. Next year, like you gotta talk about him as rookie year. You got to. It's Cooper Flag. But next year, if I'm still talking.
Are you gonna go to Celtics Mavericks when it's at the Garden? Are you gonna try and go to that game?
I wish, but do you know how much they're gonna rise that because all of New England's gonna want to be?
Yeah,
there,
the tickets would be crazy for that game.
Maybe we'll go to one at the Barclay. Maybe that's what we'll have.
Make it happen. Let's do it.
Mavericks versus Nets. That might be the most affordable. That might be the most affordable one.
Or like Mavs versus Jazz or something like that.
Wait, Mavs versus who?
the Jazz or like the
That's too far.
Blazers or something.
That's too far though. Or
Oh, okay,
I,
yeah,
I
that's true.
feel like the
Oh, you're talking
easiest
about the
one,
Nets. Okay,
yeah, the
because
net.
okay, yeah,
Or like I feel like the closest one that's the most affordable, maybe Charlotte too. Charlotte,
maybe.
we go that.
Or flight.
Yeah, we could do that. But no, ultimately though, I agree. Summer League, it's like I've just had all eyes on the Celtics. Maybe Bronny James. Just kidding. No, we're gonna see the Bronny James matchup against the Boston Celtics Thursday. So make sure to stay tuned for the recap on that. But a little conversation I want to talk about, and we don't have to get into this one for long, is Brad Stevens had a press conference, and we already talked about Al Horford last podcast, but the question was asked again: is Al Horford where he at? And Brad Stevens said he is unlikely to come back with the Celtics. Obviously, Daniel, you and I talked about it last week, but what are your thoughts, David, on Al Horford? Brad Stevens saying unlikely. So it doesn't look like Al Horford's returning, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be tough to bring him back just because he could definitely get a bigger payday somewhere else, and it doesn't seem like the Celtics are. Obviously, the Celtics are not in a position to fork away the money that maybe Al Horford desires. I think there is a world maybe where Al Horford just comes back on a minimum or close to a minimum, whatever it may be, and just has this as one final hurrah season, mentoring the next guys up in the big man rotation. But at the same time, do we want to? This might sound pretty brutal. Do we want to or do we want Al Horford, a 38, soon to be 39-year-old, or however he's pushing 40. That's all I know. Like, do we
He's
want
pushing on
someone?
stats.
He's pushing on status. Do we want that? Do we want a player that old taking up the roster spot when this is more of a retooling season, just for the ability to mentor our up and coming big man? I don't know, and that's the question that Brad Stevens has to answer. I've always
He
thought,
already
I
answered it.
know, yeah, I mean, true, that is a good point. I think, as far as I know, it's unlikely, but the Celtics have made an offer to Al Horford that is still on the table for
Oh,
the foreseeable future. I think I've always kind of thought it was weird how people thought that he was just gonna, if it isn't the Celtics, he's going to sign with another team. I've more so thought if it isn't the Celtics, it could potentially be retirement because this is this is where we have to think about the people behind the athletes, and this is going to be potentially a lot for Al Horford if he decides to move to another team because he's going to have to take his whole family along with him to move somewhere completely different than he's been the last 3-4 years for maybe just 1 to 2 years, and then maybe potentially relocate again if he goes somewhere else once he retires. That's a lot to ask for, and that's something I'm sure him and his wife are talking over. I know his family's expecting a sixth child in December of 2025, so he's even adding another baby to the Horford legacy family. Um, so we'll see. I think it's a lot for him to think about. I don't know if he would do like maybe a 1 year last hurrah with the Golden State Warriors. I think it's interesting that the Warriors thought he was going to sign last week, but he still hasn't signed. I saw the Lakers, Cavaliers, and even the Atlanta Hawks are interested in him.
and Nuggets too.
The Nuggets, I mean, I wouldn't personally mind if, as one last hurrah, he would just sign with Atlanta, maybe reunite him and Porzingis and like have it just be coming full circle for the team that he spent his first 8 years with. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It would be, I mean, we've been accustomed to it. Al has spent most of his career not in a Celtics uniform, but it feels like he's known most for being a Celtic, in my personal opinion. That might be a hot take.
Championship.
So
Championship.
if he isn't on the Celtics next season, he's wearing another jersey. That's going to be weird to see. But yeah, I'm not holding my breath. If he comes back, I'd welcome him back with open arms. But as much as I hate to say it, there needs to be a youth movement with the big man spot in Boston, and I won't be too sad if he doesn't come back. And I wish him the best in whatever he does and his efforts. We often talk. loved Al Horford 1.0, but I just loved Al Horford 2.0 in Boston even more. Like, I was completely wrong when we traded him for Kemba Walker. I just thought that was just a whatever move. Like, oh great, we're getting Al Horford back. Whoop de doo. I underestimated how much that was going to move the needle for the Celtics and how much that just shifted the energy, if you will, with this Celtics core. And he has just been playing out of his mind these last 4 seasons with Boston. And if this is the end, then it was a heck of a ride. But I mean, I would love to change these conversations once we figure out what his next move is. To will Al Horford's number get retired by the Celtics? Will Al Horford be a Hall of Famer? I'd love to discuss those things. And yeah, like I said, I just wish him the best in whatever he does, and he'll forever be a champion with the Celtics.
Totally. Well, I have a question for you guys too, and I want you guys to answer one of these 3 questions. All right. So I'm gonna ask you 3 things for Al Horford, and you guys have to say one of them. So these are the 3 questions. Does he retire? Does he come back to Boston, or does he go with another team? David, pick one of those.
I think he retires.
All right. We got one for retirement. Daniel, what about you?
I agree. I cannot see him in another jersey, especially not if it's the Warriors jersey. That's just cannot happen. So yeah, I think retirement.
I feel like the money's still there. So like I really wouldn't be shocked if he goes with another team.
So you think he wants another paycheck from the NBA and it's solely financially motivated?
I mean, it helps. It's another.
Yeah, which one do you want, Griffin?
What was that?
So which option will you go for? Is it another team?
I'm going to go another team because Brad Stevens said it's very unlikely with the Celtics, and I just don't see how they could do another roster spot. And it's like, I like what David said. It's like the idea goal for the Celtics is to get younger. And obviously you saw in the playoff run last year, the Celtics were slow. They were older. And it's like, yeah, Al Horford would be a great mentor, but it's like, would you really want to make a roster cut just to add him back when you have a young core and potentially Charles Bassey as well? So I'm going to go other team because I feel like the money's still there.
What team do you think he'd sign with?
I'm going to go Nuggets. I just see the Nuggets. Nuggets have a tendency. They obviously have DeAndre Jordan, other known as, you guys remember the viral clip when they said DeAndre Ayton instead of DeAndre Jordan, but I see it. I'd say either Golden State or I just don't see him going to Golden State, losing the championship against them. I don't think he would go there, but I would say the Nuggets. Yeah. But before we go into our next topic, I wanted to throw this one up there. I found the picture. Drew Peterson, obviously you see his hair was shaggy, and I really thought at that point in time too, I was like, oh, he might be something for the Celtics. I was like, I don't know. He was pretty good. But I completely forgot to add this question, and I wanted to ask you guys, go around the panel really quick, ask you guys, and then we'll move on to the next topic. But what are your guys' thoughts on Hugo Gonzalez in Summer League? I feel like, the first game, he had a good game. Obviously, it looked like he rolled his ankle, didn't play the second game, however, played the third game and wasn't as dominant as thought. But I kind of like the fact that he's performing better than his stats looked like. Like, obviously, he was averaging 5 points. However, in the game against the he had, let's go check. He had, I can't even find it. He had 10 points and 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and shot 25%. So the plus minus -18. But I still think I feel like there's something with Hugo. I really do. Hugo Gonzalez, I really see something on his horizon. I think he's going to be more of an impactful player than I thought. But David, we'll start off with you. Go ahead, Daniel. What are your thoughts on Hugo Gonzalez, obviously, in Summer League?
Yeah. I saw that he had a great game, similarly to what you said, his first game. And then obviously he's been a little bit quieter these last few games, but it'll be interesting to see what he can do this year. I think he'll spend the majority of the season in Maine, Maybe he'll pop up at the end of the season in March and April when maybe if we're out of the playoff mix or just maybe um, something comes up and we can give him an opportunity. It's just he's also in another tough situation where just as much as the Celtics love their guards, they love their wings. But I like what I've seen out of him. I can't wait, I guess, to go to a game in Maine potentially this upcoming season just to see him play down there. But yeah, and I love that interview he did. I think the beginning of the fourth quarter, that first game where Stephanie Reddy on ESPN was just asking him like what he thinks of the game so far, and he's like, "Good, we're ahead. Oh, we're ahead. That means we must win. We have to win." And then he just left it at that. So I love the killer mentality. I'd love to see him and Joe Mazzulla have a conversation. That's another thing too. I just completely remembered is that Joe Mazzulla is not the biggest fan of rookies, or it's not that he's not a fan of them. It's just he doesn't like to give them playing time right off the bat. So Hugo will most definitely be buried in Maine to start the season. But
You don't like
yeah,
change over.
I'm looking forward to going down to Maine and seeing what he can do. And it seems like he's got a lot of potential with his defense, decent shooting, and some decent playmaking. So we welcome that here in Boston. That's for sure.
Totally. And I want to say too before you go, Daniel, is I'm gonna shut down the fact that he's not gonna play in Maine. I don't know who's been saying it, but a lot of people are like, Ugo's so good. He's just gonna play. He's just gonna play for the Celtics. No, he's not. He's 19 years old. He's not NBA ready.
He's only 19.
He's only
We can
19.
bring back that joke.
He's living in his Jason Tatum years right now. Only 19 years old. It's blasphemous to say that he is gonna skip the development process and go right to the NBA when he's 19 years old. Played in Euro basketball. He's not ready. He's not ready. And I feel like Baylor Shireman gets that role this year. Obviously, Baylor Shireman in Summer League hasn't been proving that, but Ugo Gonzalez is not NBA ready yet. But Daniel, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Griffin, you know how I felt about Hugo when he first came in.
Yeah,
You know what I said about him, but I think he's not starting to prove me right, I would say, but over the past 2 games he's had the same amount of rebounds and assists as he's had points. So that's something to talk about. Like he's had 19 rebounds and assists the past 2 games, and he's had 22 points. So not much to talk about there. Rebounds and assists wise, I like him. I like that. But it's not just about the stats. I think it's just about like seeing him in the game. I think I'm just going back to like the fact that I just don't know. Like I'm just not really too sure about him. Shooting wise, he has been bad as well, but shooting isn't everything. Like I learned with like a lot of the players last season, who ended up being influential even without like having incredible shooting. But yeah, you can't just like also brush through the 3 for 12 shooting with the Heat against the Heat, or the 4 for 12 shooting um uh, against the Grizzlies first game. But I would need to see more of him again. Like I was saying when he first got here, I'm gonna need to see more of him, and hopefully I get to do that while he's playing at the main Celtics.
yeah, totally. He just needs to develop a lot more, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I
why
agree.
I'm shutting down the fact that he's NBA ready. I don't care if he was dominating Baylor Shireman in practice or whatever.
Oh
It's
yeah,
the
I don't think he's NBA ready at all. Yeah, I
no,
agree.
no. He's 19 years old. He's from Euro basketball. Stick him in the G League for a little bit, get him warmed up there, then slowly brush him in. But he shouldn't be with the Celtics from the get go.
I think it's also just a transition period as well, with him and both him and Kenny Lofton Jr. coming from playing in other countries, in other continents, to playing in the U.S. It's like it's the same sport, but it's different at the same
Yeah,
time. So it's like an adjustment period, some would say. So that adjustment takes a while. So I think for both of them, sometime in the G League would do them good over time.
totally, totally. Well, we've had this for the last two, maybe three podcasts, but there's some other news about Dame to Boston. So Celtics, Jason Tatum reportedly actively recruiting Damian Lillard after Bucks exit. And I gotta say this, I also saw some other breaking news before we came on this podcast too, is the Celtics emerge as front runners for Damian Lillard. I'm gonna and Daniel, you and I, we've already had our takes. We want Dame to come to Boston. I'm a big fan of it, but and Tatum actively recruiting it. There's not a lot to talk about, but David, we haven't heard your takes at all for Dame to Boston. So take it away. You guys all know Daniel's and I's takes, and if you don't, there's a whole video on it. I clipped it up. We have a little short, not short, a little video. So go watch that after about Daniel's and I's takes. But David, what are your takes? And Tatum actively recruiting him as well, and Celtics frontrunners. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's one of those, it's high risk, high reward, because we don't know what Lillard is going to come back and be like, age 36, 35, coming off an Achilles injury. But if he can be anything like he was pre-Achilles injury, even just a shell of that, then it's like a no-brainer move, and it's a great investment. It's just the pros are you get Damian Lillard, you get the experience, you get the expertise, you get the shooting, you get the playmaking, you get all that. The cons are, what is it going to cost to sign Damian Lillard, to basically have him rehab for a year? And then what moves do you need to make to get under that second apron, along with Damian Lillard being on your team? I think we can all agree that we would swap out Damian Lillard for Anthony Simons and be perfectly fine with offloading his contract to make room for Damian Lillard. The trickier one, maybe it's not so tricky now that I'm thinking about it, but you'd have to offload both Simons and Hauser, I believe, under that second apron, and then make room for a hypothetical Damian Lillard signing. That's something I would do, because we have the pieces in place to be able to survive that. You replace Shireman with Hauser, like we've talked about. You can fit Lillard in right there with Lillard, White, and Pritchard. It's just the only downside is you're getting about 10 years older if you swap Simons for Lillard. And again, he's 36 years old, coming off of an Achilles injury. So I lean yes. Like, I would welcome it if it happens. And I guess I'm not like a full, like, yes, like we have to do like 100% yes, but I lean yes towards that happening. I'm just worried about, it's a big swing, and it could potentially be a big swing that misses in two ways, because I think team chemistry could be off the charts. I mean, Tatum and Lillard are bonding clearly over, both recovering from this Achilles injury. They're both been on the Olympic teams. Tatum's been recruiting Lillard. I don't even think this is the first time that Tatum has tried to get Lillard to come to Boston. I think a couple summers ago, when Lillard requested a trade from the Trailblazers, Tatum wanted Lillard to get traded to Boston as well. So there's obviously some chemistry there already. It's just, I get nervous that we have all this money invested in two guys coming off torn Achilles injuries, and what if they both just fall out, crash and burn? And I don't want that to happen at all for either of them. Achilles injuries suck in sports. They're one of the worst injuries a sports athlete could have. I get nervous with the cons, but these are the types of moves I think you want to make to jettison yourself back into championship contention. So is this a move I think that would absolutely maximize the window with Tatum and Brown? Because Tatum and Brown are still young. Like, Tatum's only 27, Brown's going to be 29 at the start of next season. So if it's age 30 and age 28 by the time you get Tatum back and Lillard back, along with the 36-year-old Lillard, that is a win-now move that maximizes that shorter window of Tatum and Brown's prime. So if you're all for that, I say absolutely go for it. It's a big risk, but the Celtics wouldn't have gone to where they were without taking risks. You took a risk with trading for Porzingis, and we paid the price for it last season with how injured he was. But you don't win the championship without Porzingis. I mean, we did pretty much win the championship without him in the playoff run, but we don't do as well as we do in the regular season to set us up for that much of a cakewalk as the 1 seed in the summer playoff run in 2024. So I think it's a healthy risk to take. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I don't think the potential downside of it is terribly bad, losing like a Hauser and a Simons to be able to afford a 36-year-old Lillard. I think you swing for the fences for it. I'm all for it. I wouldn't be opposed to see if it happens. I would just probably be anxiously biting my fingernails, I guess, until opening night 2026.
Totally, because you don't know what you're getting from him. But I do like the fact that they could both rehab together, and that's what makes me excited about that. But again, you heard Daniel and I's take about this. But some
How
cool,
can I ask you guys a question about that
yeah,
quickly?
of course, of course. What's your question?
What's a contract you would be comfortable giving Damian Lillard um, on the free agent market given his situation with his Achilles? Like, how much would you give him per year?
I'll start it off. I'll go the minimum, which I think that might be around. I'm not sure what it's around. You can't give him the veteran minimum, but I don't know what the minimum is. Can we go in the ballpark of 5 million? Is that what? I don't know exactly with salaries. If you don't mind looking it up, but I'm gonna go minimum contract. For it might be around there because you look at this. He's still getting paid from the Bucks, and he could have how much is it?
3.6 million is the veteran minimum.
I'm gonna go with the veteran minimum because he's still getting paid by the Bucks.
Do you think he would take that?
Yeah, I mean, but it's tough. It's like, do you give him a little more? Then do you give him 10 million? Like I would say around the 5 million range. I'd say just over the veteran minimum because maybe I would even go 10 million. I wouldn't mind with that because he's still getting paid from Milwaukee, so that's still money he's getting just to play for Boston. And then on top of that, you don't know what you're getting from that. And I think he doesn't even know what he's getting from that because he doesn't know what he's going to be when he comes back. So, and he's already not the best defender. And then you add an Achilles tear to it. He's going to be a really attractive cone on defense. But Daniel, what would you give him?
I think somewhere between the range of like 5 to 10. I agree with you, Griffin. I think just because I think last time I checked the numbers, he's getting paid about 25 m's per season. For the rest of his time on the Bucks, that's a lot. So just around like 5 to 10 mark, bump it up to 30 m's a year that he's earning. I think he'd be happy with that, and you'd also be happy to play for the Celtics with Jason Tatum. So I think just adding that extra like 5 to 10 millions to the contract, just making it more of a incentive for him to join. I think that would be nice. I think no more than 10 though. I think more than 10 is it's kind of a steal or kind of a scam from Lillard and his agents, considering the fact that once again he is being paid still by the Bucks.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, though, David? What would you feel comfortable giving him? And what do you
I
think he
go.
would
I'm gonna go with Daniel. I think he like no more than 10 million. Like if we're talking 12, 15 million, that's where it gets dicey. And like the Celtics, as much as I like Damian Lillard, any team that is negotiating with Lillard has the leverage because he is, as you guys said, literally getting paid by the Bucks to not play for them. And like you said, Daniel, he's getting like 25 million a year from them. So anywhere from like the 5 to 10 million dollar range, I would feel comfortable paying him, and I would be totally fine with the Celtics holding out on that because this is a 36-year-old player coming off an Achilles tear, getting paid 25 million and not play for a team. Like I don't see any reason why a team should have to pay him more than 10 million. So yeah, I would say the 5 to 10 million range I'd be comfortable with.
I agree. And I would say like more so five something. I would say around 5 million because he could still be a great player. That's undeniable that he could be a great player, but it's just the fact, what will he do? And so I look at that and I mess with Seamus's take too, and I want to hear what your guys' thoughts on this. Seamus said if it were up to him, he would wait until Dame is rehab because that takes up Tatum already takes up a roster spot. So you're at 14 roster spots because of Tatum. Obviously, signing Lillard, that takes up another one. Only 13 roster spots. Do you guys feel comfortable with that, or would you wait till he's obviously available, or would you take the risk on it right now and only have 13 roster spots, 15 with your two? Well, I guess 16 with your 2A guys, but still. only 13 roster spots. Or are you taking that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really even think of that, but that is a risk. I think you have to sign him, or else another team will. Like, I think
Yeah.
there's a team desperate enough to sign him right now, even though in theory that's the smartest thing to do. Is just wait until this time next summer to take a flyer on Dame post Achilles rehab. But yeah, in a perfect world, I wish the Celtics could do that, but I think they're gonna have to sign him right now and embrace that. Yeah, that is very tough having two spots taken up where you know you can't do anything about it. Then again, the Celtics are usually creative with the roster construction, and I mean it's not the end of the world. I think if two spots are taken up because of how many players you use just in general throughout the whole season, and consistently game in and game out. Teams are usually only using like 8 or 9 players a night. So that would be tough, I guess, shuffling players in and out from Maine throughout the season, but or really just like making substantial trades. But that that is a move that I would love to be able to execute, but I think you have to sign him right away, or else you're going to lose the opportunity to get him at all.
I agree. What are your thoughts, though, Daniel?
I agree with David. I think in a perfect world, yeah, you wait another year. But I think contract wise, and just the fact that we aren't the only team looking for him, we have to take that gamble or that risk of signing him now, just because not only because another team might pick him up, but just because of the potential of what he could do. Because he's still a really good scorer. We didn't mention he's a cone on defense, or he's going to be a cone on defense coming back. But offensively, I think one, he's better than Holiday offensively. I think in terms of like points and like scoring.
Hands down.
Two, he's better than Simmons. So or Simons. So I think in terms, if we're talking like scoring and like who can help JB and JT the most, I think we have to take that chance with Damian Lillard, because I think those three is gonna be like I think it's gonna help a lot of us recover from the loss of Holiday and Porzingis.
Yeah, and I feel like if you I think this. We also don't know what Dame's thinking. He might be like, all right, I want to take my recovery and wait to sign till next year when I'm fully healthy. So who knows?
If
But
that does happen, then hopefully we're the first team to like reach out to him as soon as next summer hits.
yeah,
If he ends up taking the year off, I think I'd like that option more. Because
so
I think, yeah, because then by the time he next summer hits, he'll be fully rehabbed, and hopefully he still has Boston in his mind, and Boston still has him in their mind.
yeah, hands down. Because who knows? But honestly, like David said too, he might want to go on a team. He might want to recover and be the fact on some rostered. You know, might want to be rostered. But do you have anything else, David, on that?
Oh no, I'm good to move forward.
Got you. Well, my next one, and this is going to be a hot topic, is um, look, once rivals, now friends, it looks like. Maybe friends. I mean, George Niang has the family hat on. Maybe they are family now. I mean, they're teammates. But Jaylen Brown and George Niang are now, look at it, they're teammates. But what are your guys' thoughts on seeing that picture? I mean, the infamous picture of um, George Niang grabbing Jaylen Brown's leg. But what are your guys' thoughts now? This could be quick, obviously. I just had to throw that up there. I saw them together and I was like, oh, all right, maybe squash the beef. What are your thoughts, though?
Yeah, so when we first acquired Niang, it was pretty funny because my first reaction was kind of a little bit of excitement internally because like he's from a town that is very close to where I live, like within he's from the Merrimack Valley, which I live in the Merrimack Valley. I'm not going to say my exact address on here. I don't want to get doxxed, but basically I was very excited that someone from my neck of the woods was on the Celtics again because the last person to be on the Celtics from my area of Mass was Noah Vonleh a couple years ago.
Oh.
I actually ran into Noah Vonleh at my sister's high school graduation way back when. That's another funny story I can tell another time. So
Well,
I don't know.
gotta tell us that sometime. Then that's an interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll always have love for players from the Merrimack Valley, and I knew George's Niang was from there. Born in Lawrence, grew up in Methuen. His nickname's the Methuen Minivan. So I was just like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like a guy from Methuen, Mass, right by where I am, is on the Celtics now. Like I can't wait to root for him. Every single reply I saw under that Shams post is, why? Why the bleep did the Celtics get this guy? Of all people, why Niang? Why? And I tweeted out, I don't understand why Celtics fans hate Niang. As soon as I hit post, it clicked in my head what he did 2 years ago. And the funniest thing is, and this isn't me trying to brag, but I was at that game when that happened, and I still forgot that that happened. And I had a very good view where I was sitting of that happening. I remember following that whole thing happen in live time. Like, everyone was following the ball go up the floor in transition. I just saw JB screaming at someone on the bench, and I was fixated on that for like 5 seconds because I knew that wasn't going to stop anytime soon. And then it came out after the game that Niang tried to grab his leg to stop him from getting back in transition. I hadn't thought about it much in 2 years because literally Jaylen Brown kind of got over that right after the game ended. Like he said in a post-game interview, I don't think Georges is a bad guy. I worked out with him in the summers. I just think he got caught up in the moment and was trying to keep me from getting back in transition. So I think they've been good. I think it's just fans that have blown this out of proportion.
So would you, sorry for interrupting you, David. We obviously had with Jonathan on earlier. You guys will see that again in a couple of days. Would you say the Giannis and Brown beef is stronger than the Niang beef ever was then?
1,000%, yes. 1,000%. Because I don't think Jalen and Giannis have ever worked out. I don't think they have a personal relationship. I will give Giannis a lot of respect because he said heading into last season that Jaylen Brown was the best player in the NBA because he says whoever wins the NBA MVP of the finals from the year before is always the best player heading in the year ensuing year. So I respected Giannis a lot for saying that. But I mean, we just had that moment last season where Giannis elbowed Jalen, and then Jalen Giannis got called for the offensive foul. Then Giannis went to go high five Jalen, and then he did the stupid over the head psych. I didn't mean to high five you. And then they started beefing after the game, where Jalen had that hilarious quote where he just said Giannis is a child, and then Giannis was like trying to defend it. So that is two competitors going at it. Like I don't think it's personal, but like on the floor, I think there is a huge beef between Giannis and Jalen. Absolutely. Like I think they want to kill each other every time they see each other on the court.
No,
But
totally.
with Niang, I think that was just one isolated moment. And I think they've been close. Like I think that they like probably talked it out after that, right after that happened, and they're good. And like I've always been fine with Niang.
He hates Philly. He hates Philly.
He hates Philly. I'm looking forward to it, and like I've seen this circling around social media today. If JB has forgiven George's Niang, then I'm willing to forgive him. I've seen fans saying that. I hope we can finally move on from this and just like get ready for Niang to be a contributor to the team because it's depth. Whether he's a starter or he's on the bench, he provides some depth. I know he's been getting a lot of hate and a lot of slack. I think it's cool for him to be able to play for his hometown team.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's going to have a chance to start, and if not be a starter, he's going to get minutes off the bench. So, you know, he'll give us some shooting. He'll be a bruiser down low a little bit. So I'm honestly looking forward to it. And like, yeah, I 100% think they're good. I think they've always been good. I think this is just a classic case of the media making it out to be something more than it is.
Well, I love how he's been super involved in Boston already and is embracing his role. Obviously, he showed an appearance at Summer League and now at the Suns game. So I'm for it. I am for George Niang to Boston. I don't like him in a starting spot. I would much prefer him coming off the bench. However, that's not what we're getting with Niang. He's, as of right now, looks to be the Celtics starting power forward. So we gotta love him. We gotta respect him. I mean, he, like you said, he's from Massachusetts, Lawrence, Massachusetts. So we gotta embrace it. So the minivan's coming, whether we like it or not. The minivan is on its way up to Boston. But talking about the WNBA game, This is a question that you threw out to me, David. Should Boston get a WNBA team? And if you wanted to kind of elaborate on this, what were you saying to me before this? If you wanted to throw it out there for a question for me, and then you could answer as well.
Yeah, so the Indiana Fever came to play at the Connecticut Sun at TD Garden last night. I think this is the second straight year the Sun have played a game at the Garden, and this was a sold-out crowd last night. Obviously, the big draw of that is being Caitlin Clark and her Indiana Fever team coming into town. But it was a great showing. We had players in the Bruins at the game. We had Georges Niang and Jaylen Brown at the game. It was a good game. Like, it came down at the end, and you know, I definitely enjoyed watching it. And what really wanted me to ask this question is because pregame, the governor, excuse me, from Massachusetts, Maura Healey, was talking on NBC Sports Boston's pregame show. And she said basically that she wants a team to come to Boston. She doesn't see why it can't happen. And that there are a ton of investors out there that are super excited and want a team to be moved to Boston or come to Boston, because I believe it was announced that the WNBA in the next 5 to 10 years is confirmed to be expanding. I'm all for a team coming to Boston. I think it's a little weird that a team was in Connecticut before it came to Boston, but
Well, I think they look at the Yukon Huskies, obviously, but and then thinking the popularity with them. But you're right though. Why Connecticut before Boston? It doesn't make any sense.
let me rephrase it. Not a Connecticut versus Boston thing, but why just not Boston in general? I thought right away, if you're forming the WNBA, like Boston should be one of those places to have a women's team. Whether it be due to relocation or the Boston gets a expansion team, I think we'll get one. I think it would be great. I think it's cool that Boston just built a women's sports bar in Boston. That's just all women's sports in there. I think that's very cool. I think what's going on in the WNBA is great. Growing the sport. You have a lot of great personalities coming out, like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is kind of like the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson storyline of the WNBA. You got Sophie Cunningham being Caitlin Clark's bodyguard. Paige Buckers is like an up-and-coming youngster. Aaliyah Boston. I think there's a lot of potential there. So, yes, I do think Boston will get a WNBA team, and I hope people get behind it. I know Mark Wahlberg's brother, Donnie Wahlberg, is working to bring a team to Boston. I don't know where they would play. I don't know if they play at the Garden or like in another stadium in Boston, but I think there's a lot of potential there, and I think that women's basketball is only going to get more popular.
Well, I think the only way it happens, though, is if, we saw it with the Seattle Supersonics, they moved to OKC. I feel like the Connecticut Suns, it would kind of be like that. Maybe. I don't know, because they obviously play in a smaller arena. But I would say I would probably be rooting for the Suns still. I got a Suns shirt, and then I was born in Connecticut. However, I'm from Maine now, so I guess I would have to root for the Boston team, obviously, because I'm all Boston. But yeah, I'm all for it too, David. I say we bring Caitlin Clark to Boston. Call her up. Hey, come sign with our Boston team. We'll get you and Paige Buckers. Beckers. Sorry, I messed it. I actually met her too. We were talking about that one a bit, but I'm all for it. I feel like, hey, might as well. And everyone was talking so highly about Boston last night.
I was going to mention that. Yeah,
Sophie Cunningham was, and maybe Caitlin Clark even was saying that. I don't know.
She wants to come to a Red Sox game, but obviously the Sox weren't playing when she was here. But she wants to come back here and explore the city a little bit.
So you have Caitlin Clark wanting to come to explore the city. I mean, hey, sign her up. Hey, she would be all for a Boston team. And imagine that, sold out crowds in Boston. If we get a WNBA team, I guess Caitlin Clark is all signed up for joining our team. Do you think so? That sounds like if she wants to come to a Red Sox game, that seems to me like, hey, I want to make a deal with the Boston team.
I would love it. I would love it if we get a Boston team and Caitlin Clark is the face of the team. I don't know if it would happen. I wonder if she has loyalty to the Indiana Fever and wanting to start a dynasty there. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope that this happens in the near future. I think it'd be cool. And what better place for there to be a women's basketball team than Boston, which is a sports city? Because
it's the city
you
of
got
champions.
City of champions. I mean, you got New York, but New York has all these other industries, and then you got LA, but LA's full of celebrities. All that Boston has is like, well, I shouldn't say all that Boston has, because I know I'm gonna get cooked if I continue
Boston Tea
that
Party.
thought. But Boston has healthcare. They got education. I mean, other places again have these things, but they also have sports. Like, you can't go anywhere in Boston without hearing someone talk about sports. So, what better place for there to be an NBA team than the capital of Massachusetts?
You said it. Bring an WNBA team to Boston.
WNBA.
With that being said, guys, that's going to do it. Wrong picture. Oh, wait, what did I do? I guess we got to pull that up one more time, David. I had to.
I forgot you were planning on doing this.
I was. Wrong button.
Your finger
I know.
twitched.
What did it hit on? Oh. Wait, hold on. Wait. Oh. It's Johnny Fury and Noah Senke right there. My hand slipped. My bad. Sorry about that. But here we go. This is actual time. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified every time we upload. Again, it's going to be crazy all off season with breaking news and everything. So make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you guys know when we're recording. So thank you guys again. We will see you in the next one. Peace, guys.